Welcome back to Football Daily. With the World Cup on the horizon, we have 10 players who absolutely despised playing for their country. 10. Ryan Giggs. Now the Wales manager, Ryan Giggs' relationship with his nation's team hasn't always been easy. Despite being arguably their greatest ever player, he only won 64 caps and scored just 12 goals, one fewer than Aaron Ramsey has in just 53 appearances. Giggs played for England as a schoolboy but first turned out for Wales in 1991, when he was just 18. However, it was clear from the start that club football would come before the national team. In his autobiography, Giggs explained, "Whenever I played 2 games in 1 week, I always seemed to pick up an injury. So Alex Ferguson and I sat down and looked at it game by game. If the international was a friendly, the feeling was that I didn't have to play." It took him 9 years to play a non-competitive game for Wales, and they never qualified for a tournament. Giggs retired from the squad in 2007, aged 34, which might have been fine if he hadn't joined up with Team GB for the 2012 Olympics, aged 38. Let's hope he can be bothered to turn up for Wales matches now. 9. Stephen Ireland. Despite his name, Stephen Ireland was not always the most patriotic footballer. The Irishman played for the Republic for just a single year, winning 6 caps and scoring 4 goals, a pretty impressive hit rate. But a promising future with the Green Army came to a premature end when his girlfriend called then Ireland manager Steve Staunton days before a crucial Euro 2008 qualifier against the Czech Republic, saying that Ireland's maternal grandmother had died. He was given leave to go home, but the tabloid press quickly determined that Ireland's mother's mother was still alive. The player quickly corrected reports, saying it was in fact his father's mother who was dead, until she turned out to be in good health as well. Ireland eventually confessed that he had actually spent his time away with his girlfriend, who he claimed had suffered a miscarriage. However, he didn't return to the international fold under Giovanni Trapattoni, and though Martin O'Neill tried to convince the player to come back, he never again made himself available to the Republic. 8. George Weah. Now president of Liberia, George Weah took 2 attempts to become leader of his country, finally achieving the success in politics he could never manage on the field with the Lone Stars. Weah represented the tiny West African states between 1987 and 2003, twice helping them qualify for the Africa Cup of Nations, the only visits they've made to the tournament in 60 years. Weah bagged 22 goals in 60 matches at international level, but that was well below his club strike rate of 0.4 goals a game. And despite reaching Africa's premier competition, Liberia went out in the first round both times, winning just 1 of their 5 matches, on one occasion losing to Zaire, with the winner coming from Roger Lukaku, yes, Romelu's dad. Despite the brilliance which earned him 5 domestic titles and the 1995 Ballon d'Or, Weah could never take his compatriots to the World Cup, missing out on qualification by a single point in 2002. Along with George Best and Alfredo Di Stefano, Weah has a claim to being the greatest player never to feature on the biggest stage in the game. 7. Paul Scholes. Despite his reputation as one of England's most talented players, Paul Scholes won only 66 caps for the Three Lions before announcing his retirement from the international stage at just 29 years old. That meant he made fewer appearances for his country than Joe Hart and only 4 more than the great Emil Heskey. Thanks to the presence of Gerrard and Lampard in the national side, Scholes also found himself shunted around the midfield, though it's a myth that he spent most of his time on the wing, with the majority of his appearances coming in the centre or even as a number 10. Remarkably, he was subbed off in 37 of his 66 matches, and he retired from the England setup in 2004 to concentrate on club football. And he was duly rewarded with another 5 titles and a second Champions League over the second decade of his career. England managers Steve McClaren and Fabio Capello personally requested that Scholes reconsider his decision on 3 occasions, but the player claimed he would rather spend time with his family than go to another World Cup. 6. Jamie Carragher. With 38 caps, Liverpool legend Jamie Carragher played less often for his country than Theo Walcott and Owen Hargreaves. With Sol Campbell, Tony Adams and Rio Ferdinand around, Carragher ended up stuck in the under-21s until he was 22, setting a record for appearances for the junior side with 27. Though handed a first senior cap in 1999, it took 2 years before he wore the shirt again, missing Euro 2000 in the meantime. But Carragher finally got lucky in 2006. His co-pundit Gary Neville was kept out of the World Cup in Germany by fitness problems, giving him a shot at making the right-back berth his own. However, the Scouser missed a penalty in England's quarter-final shootout exit to Portugal and retired 3 years after being accused of bottling it. He would eventually return for the 2010 World Cup before losing his spot again. this time to the icon that is Matthew Upson. 5. Chris Sutton. A title winner with Blackburn in 1995, Chris Sutton was unfortunate enough to be an English striker during a period when the national team boasted Alan Shearer, Andy Cole, Ian Wright, Les Ferdinand and Teddy Sheringham. However, his short career with the Three Lions was arguably his own fault. Sutton got his first call-up in 1997 when he was already 24, appearing as a sub against Cameroon. He was in the squad again the following year for a game against Chile, but when the team sheet went up a day before the match, Sutton was in the B team. Livid at manager Glenn Hoddle, he refused to appear for the second string and was dropped for the friendly and that summer's World Cup, despite finishing the campaign as the Premier League's top scorer. Sutton's reputation as a troublemaker meant that neither Hoddle nor any England boss after him called the forward up, despite him netting a goal every 2 games for Celtic and winning 4 titles. He eventually retired from international football, having played a total of 11 minutes for his country. 4. Djibril Cisse. Djibril Cisse is known for his poor luck with injuries, but his fortune on the international stage is even worse. The Frenchman had a 9-year career with Les Bleus, receiving his first cap in 2002. He was included in that summer's World Cup squad, with France the reigning champs and favourites for the trophy, but they were dumped out at the group stage after a draw with Uruguay and losses to Denmark and Senegal. 2 years later, Cisse missed Euro 2004 as he was serving a 5-match ban after being sent off during an under-21 game. But by the time the next World Cup rolled around in 2006, he had re-established himself in the team and was keen to make his mark on a big tournament. However, Cisse broke his leg, his second such injury in 2 seasons, during a warm-up fixture against China and missed France's run to the final. He sat out 7 months before returning to the tricolour setup to help them qualify for Euro 2008, only to be omitted from the squad in favour of Bafétimbi Gomis and Sidney Govou. But he was to get one final chance. In 2010, Cisse was once again on the plane to the World Cup, but a squad mutiny saw France fall at the first hurdle again. In the end, despite playing for one of the most dominant international teams of the era, Cisse never won a game at a major tournament. 3. Emmanuel Adebayor. Emmanuel Adebayor was eligible to play for Nigeria, and if he had turned out for the Super Eagles, he would have appeared in at least 3 World Cups and won the 2013 Africa Cup of Nations. But instead he represented his birth country Togo, for whom he is the all-time top scorer, with 31 goals in 80 games. The only Togolese ever to be named African Footballer of the Year, Adebayor has gone to 4 AFCONs and a single World Cup, but has never scored at either competition and has won just a single tournament game. In fact, he has lost 32 of his 80 matches in his country's colours, and was even temporarily dropped from the squad in 2007 after he quite rightly complained when the Togolese FA refused to pay bonuses promised to the players at AFCON 2006. But Adebayor was also forced to endure one of football's darkest days in 2010, when he and his teammates were attacked by gunmen en route to that year's Cup of Nations in Angola. The attackers, from a faction seeking independence for the Angolan region of Cabinda, killed the squad's bus driver, the assistant manager, and a media officer. Togo withdrew from the tournament and Adebayor announced his retirement 3 months later. He has since rejoined the side. 2. Yann M'Vila. With just 4 international breaks a season, it's rare that national team commitments can derail a player's career, but that's exactly what happened to Yann M'Vila in 2012. Then 22, the defensive midfielder had helped render successive 6th place finishes and a Europa League campaign, attracting interest from Arsenal, who needed a replacement for Barca-bound Alex Song. M'Vila already had 22 caps, having played for France since he was 20, and had helped them to reach the knockout stage of Euro 2012, though he was suspended for a game after refusing to shake manager Laurent Blanc's hand after he was subbed. However, he was still eligible for the under-21s and was selected for a crucial playoff against Norway that November, with the winner earning a place at the following year's Youth Euros. But a team featuring Lacazette, Griezmann and Varane lost 5-3 in the second leg to miss out, and 5 players were also handed bans from international football because they had spent a night as a club between the 2 games. Griezmann was among those suspended for a year, while M'Vila sat out 2, missing the 2014 World Cup. Arsenal called their interest and M'Vila went to Rubin Kazan, while Paul Pogba took his place with Les Bleus. He hasn't earned a cap since. 1. Lionel Messi. Some idiots still claim Lionel Messi needs to win an international tournament to be the greatest of all time, but it's hard to see what more the little Argentinian could do. He's taken his country to the final of the last 2 Copas America and the most recent World Cup, appearing in the team of the tournament at all 3 competitions, and being named the best player in Brazil in 2014. Since 2011, Messi has played in 4 major international cups, scoring and assisting 21 goals in 23 matches in the blue and white shirt. In the final of the 2014 World Cup, Messi had more shots, created more chances, and completed more dribbles than anyone else on the field. And if it hadn't been for poor misses from Higuain then and Aguero at the Copa America, the little forward would already have a medal to his name with the Albiceleste, the team for which he is now the top scorer of all time, above Batistuta, Kempes, and Maradona. Now 30, Messi may have just 2 shots left at plugging this gap in his CV, and in qualification for the 2018 World Cup, Argentina took 2.1 points per game with him on the field, compared to under 0.9 without him. With Icardi and Dybala arriving to supplement the already ridiculous Argentinian attack, as well as visionary madman Jorge Sampaoli organising the team, perhaps Messi will finally get his hands on the silverware he deserves. So thanks once again for watching, guys, and if you enjoyed this, why not click on screen right now for another one of our fantastic videos. And as always, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe.